everyone. My name is Joseph Rinaldi, and I am the president of the Federazione Lucana of America. On behalf of the Federation, I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you joining us for this webinar on discovering Basilicata and exploring the beauty of this remarkable region. This webinar is part of our Basilicata Roots program, which is dedicated to providing people in the USA with a deeper understanding of the history, culture, and traditions of Basilicata. We hope this session inspires you to connect with the rich heritage of the region and perhaps even plan a visit to experience it firsthand. I am especially delighted today to introduce our distinguished speakers. We have Antonio Nicoletti, the Director General of APT Basilicata, which is the Basilicata regional agency for the promotion of the region. And joining us as well is Karen Haid, the award-winning author of 2 books about Southern Italy, Calabria, the Other Italy, and Basilicata, Authentic Italy. Karen is a fluent Italian speaker with Dante Alighieri Society's top-level certification and organizes comprehensive small group tours to these fascinating regions with her company, Karen's Travel LLC. So without further ado, I will now turn it over to Antonio to begin our journey into the heart of Basilicata.
Thank you very much, Joe. I would share my screen in order to show you some images and let you see what we are talking about when we talk about Basilicata region. We are aware that this is a less known region of Italy with respect to other places like Tuscany or Veneto or Apulia region. But despite being a less known region, we have on our part the fact that it is an unspoiled area, far from over tourism, and it is like it enshrinks all the beauty of Italy, which is still to be discovered by international tourists. So first of all, I guess that it might be helpful for you to understand where it is in Italy, Basilicata. It is the ankle of the boot, and it is a 10,000 square kilometers area between just in the middle of the 3 seas, Adriatic Sea, Ionian Sea, and Tyrrhenian Sea. This means that we have coastlines, but also it is an area that, as you can see from this picture of the Renaissance time, it is a very mountainous area with a plain area rich of rivers, water, and flourishing agriculture in the middle of Italian Mezzogiorno. How to reach Basilicata is quite easy now with the connection from Naples and Bari, and even easier if we talk about the direct flights from Rome to United States. The main gateways are Bari on the Adriatic Sea and Naples on the Tyrrhenian Sea, and then this red area is Basilicata. Basilicata is famous for being a very green area. It is rich of protected areas, rich of parks, national parks and regional parks that just transmit the idea of a place where man is in perfect balance with nature since the beginning of times. And indeed, when I say the beginning of times, I have in mind a city which is Matera. Matera is one of the oldest cities in the world, if you think that it has been inhabited since 8,000 years continuously without any interruption up until now. It is one of the oldest cities in the world, but now it is the main gateway for international tourism coming to the region. In 1993, it was the first UNESCO heritage site to be acknowledged south of Rome in Italy. In 2019, it was the European Capital of Culture, which means that it has a very vibrant cultural environment. And another point that talks about Basilicata is the very high rate of appreciation by international tourists. So we are always at the top of the rankings in Italy with regards to accommodation, quality, and satisfaction of tourists. When I talk about Matera, I was telling you about this very old town. Matera is a troglodyte settlement, literally carved into stones, and you can live in places and see places like very old caves, dwellings that have been inhabited since hundreds and hundreds of years, and now they are places like contemporary art museums or underground auditorium or museums or restaurants, spas, etc. And Matera is also a place that has been chosen by Hollywood filmmakers to play important, very famous movies, blockbuster movies. The last one, and one of the most famous, is the 007 James Bond movie, No Time to Die. In Matera and in Maratea, Daniel Craig comes to live his honeymoon with Lea Seydoux. These are the places where tourists come and live when they go to Matera. Now they are a modern spa, five-star or hotels or accommodation, which are very unique because they are in a place which is carved into stone and very old. But if you go all around the region of Basilicata, the Basilicata area, you can find other places which are quite special. I said to you before, just a few minutes ago, that that Basilicata is a place. It is a very green place where men are in a perfect, in a sustainable way, living in nature, and this is shown by how activities are here in a way that landscape is improved by the intervention of man. This is Maratea, one of the most beautiful seasides in Italy. It is similar to Amalfi Coast, but less crowded and with a harsher presence of nature, which is as you can see, it seems to be wild, and it makes the mountains meet the deep blue sea. This is on the Tyrrhenian coast. On the Ionian coast, you have the area of the old Greek colonies in southern Italy. Here is the place where Greeks discovered people growing vineyards, and the people living here was named the Enotri. Enotri was the Greek word for people living in Basilicata, and Enotri means those who make wine. They arrived here, they discovered sandy beaches, they settled here. So you find an area of Basilicata which is rich of classical ruins, like this temple in Metaponto where Pythagoras lived and taught. So there is a mixture between history, nature, landscape, protected areas, and villages. Another point that is that really describes Basilicata is that all along the region, in the parks, in the along the hills that we have in Basilicata, there are small villages that are keeping our traditions, and our traditions mean wisdom, old wisdom, that now is also translated in some kind of innovative way of communicating culture, that we are proud to tell to all generations, from young generations with Minecraft, for instance, and video games that are telling the story of Basilicata, and also with theaters, with art, which is Renaissance art, but also contemporary art. And the peculiarity of our museums, when you pass through Matera and go inland in the villages of Basilicata, is that you have modern and contemporary art. This is an artist that went from Basilicata to New York. He settled in New York, and in his house in Aliano, there are his works of art in a museum, house museum. But the special thing is that if you open the window of such museums, you feel totally immersed in the Italian culture, Italian history, with castles, monasteries, or such beautiful landscapes like this ocean of clay, which is the area of Calanchi around Aliano or Montalbano, Pisticci, etc. So these are some of the pictures that describe how Basilicata is to foreign travelers. And Basilicata also has places where you can feel the adrenaline of crossing mountains through one of the longest bridges, Tibetan bridges in the world, or flying from one point to another through the flight of the angel, a zip line that joins two places, Castelmezzano and Pietrapertosa, that FAO has recognized one of the best practices of mountain tourism in the world. So these are few pills of what Basilicata can be when you open this place to foreign tourism. Of course, all at the base of what I am telling, when I talk about tradition and culture, as we are in Italy, a very important part of our traditions is dedicated to it is dedicated to food. And I'm closing my few minutes of presenting Basilicata with some pictures of what food means in our region. Our region has a very old history and tradition of agriculture. Agriculture is now very modern, but it also has old traditions still alive. So we have kept alive old flavors like those that you can see here, with the people knowing how to make wine or how to make pasta, and we are famous for sausages, and we have places like this, which is all what you see here. It seems the Hobbit community. It is Pietragalla Palmenti. And these are cellars where we make wine. We have some of the best strawberries in the world that are also exported. And here there are two works of art, the red pepperoni Krusky and the yellow lampascioni, which is the favorite food of Francis Ford Coppola. Francis Ford Coppola, I tell, as you are with the Federazione Lucana of America, you should know that Francis Ford Coppola was originally from Basilicata. He bought a building in Bernalda, and he built his fantastic hotel, Palazzo Margherita. So these are some hints of what you can discover traveling to Basilicata. And I stop. I think that I talked enough, and I give the word to Joe again. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Antonio. Wow, what a wonderful overview of traveling to Basilicata. Looking at those images of the food, it certainly whets my appetite for wanting to return there, as well as visiting some of the sites. I'd now like to turn it over to Karen, who is a seasoned traveler and author. To recount her personal experiences of visiting Basilicata and writing about Basilicata and doing a bit of a deeper dive in visiting there. Karen?
Thank you very much. And also thank you, Antonio, for those wonderful photos. It really points out the great diversity that there is in Basilicata. And this is something that I found, and I think a lot of people are really surprised when they first arrive, because you look at a map and it's this rather small region, and to give for at least for Americans, the size, it's sort of between Delaware and Connecticut in size. So really rather small. But it's when you arrive, when you start going around, it seems like it's so much bigger. And the only thing that I can figure out is it's the mountains, all of the hills and the mountains. If you lay it all out flat, I think it would be much bigger, the region itself, because it just seems when you start exploring it that there is so much there. And like I say, Antonio really gave such a great view of all of the from the beach to the mountains. And when I first started exploring the region, I didn't really know that much. I read some, and I actually came there originally from Calabria because I had lived there for several years and written a book, and thought, what other region, a region that really deserves to be looked at more, should I start looking at? And I thought, well, Basilicata, because it was the northern neighbor. So the first time I made my plans to arrive just for an overview, I thought, it's a small region. You could probably, sum it up in 150 pages, right? No, no, no. When you start out, I actually arrived by train. And I was coming down from the Naples area, and from Battipaglia, went over to Potenza, because I had been to Matera. It's the famous place. Everybody wants to go, and it's really, everyone should go. But I thought I would look at a different part of the region, start from the north, and the train's going along, and all of a sudden there's the station Eboli. And I said to myself, should I go on? Because there's the book, famous book, Christ Stopped at Eboli, by Carlo Levi. And, strange thing, but you really have that feeling because it was so entrenched. And people were normal, get on, get off, and we kept going. And there was beautiful canyons, an area that would be difficult to make a train line in, but there is one now. And that's how I entered the region, I guess, in my mind, kind of as opposed officially, as opposed to coming in the other way through Matera. But there are these two ways that you can basically arrive. And I was staying in Potenza, which is the capital, and there's so many little facts that there are about the region of Basilicata. Potenza is the highest elevation regional capital in all of Italy. So Antonio talked about the mountains, and there are very high mountains and also many hills and very little flatland. They make the most of the flatland with the agriculture, but it's really quite a mountainous and hilly region. And so this city just sits up on a hill, as you see all over the region, and I guess the first thing that struck me and then kept hitting me as I traveled around the region were the people. Really how helpful and friendly that they were. There was a woman at my bed and breakfast who just would look up bus routes for me and restaurants and say, oh, you have to come back because here in Potenza we have our festival. How of course every town has their festival, and in Potenza it's quite a large one called the Sfilata dei Turchi. It's the Parade of the Turks, where it's they combine religious and I guess you would say profane, the sacred and the profane together for this wonderful, spectacular parade that involves 1,500 townspeople. So wherever I would go, I would meet people and they would tell me, oh, you have to come back for this or come back for that. And sometimes people would of course, talk about names of places. And I kept hearing Orazio. He was apparently a very famous person in Basilicata. And I thought to myself, how ignorant am I? How come I've never heard of this Orazio? Of course, that's the Italian name. In English, it's Horace. Lo and behold, come to find out that Horace, sees the day, was born in Venosa. And so, as you saw in Antonio's presentation, that the Greeks, of course, after the Greeks, there were Romans. And there was a very, very big Roman community in the town of Venosa. So it's another really beautiful town to visit in the north. And this is in the area of what they call the Vulture. And when you see it written, it looks like vulture. Vulture, and it's an area, and that's the name of the volcano there. And yes, there is a spent volcano in this region, and that is where the very famous wine comes from, the area of Vulture. So, and you can see the slopes of this volcano from all over this northern area, and the wine is really excellent. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. There'll be experts who can tell you all about the properties of the wine, but it is really an excellent wine. And just even the basic table wine in that area. I went to a spa. It was sort of an old-fashioned type spa where they put the mud on you and you inhale the sulfur air. And I was staying in the Properties Hotel, and they just put the jug of wine on your table for every lunch and dinner, and it was wonderful, and it was just their table wine, their house wine. So it really. You look at the pictures, but when you actually go there, and I've said that to people too, who come on my tours, you put out all these pictures, and they're, also the region has many nice brochures. But when you go there, do you feel like you've already seen that? You've already, but that's not the case, because when you're there and you actually get to taste these strawberries, and the wine, it really is something. Also, I have to admit, I have not done the Tibetan Bridge. That Antonio mentioned, the longest one in the world. I have done the Flight of the Angel, the Volo dell'Angelo, and I describe that in great detail in my book. A little scary, but yeah, there are really many, many beautiful towns, little villages, and and so it's in a way, it's when you visit, it's a little complicated because there's so much there that you have to decide almost what not to see once you know of everything, that all the choices that you have. So when I was traveling around, I first concentrated as I say, in the area of Potenza, and then going down to Maratea on the coast, and Maratea, which is that, as Antonio described, is sort of the continuation of the Amalfi Coast. Very, very beautiful, this spectacular, dramatic, rocky coastline, as opposed to the Ionian side, which is the flat coastline. But there is this spectacular Christ statue, it's sort of like in Rio. And it's just, you can just imagine the beauty, and to see it in person, overlooking this expanse of water on the Tyrrhenian Sea. And then you have, as we mentioned, the Ionian Sea. And many people come to me actually having seen the TV series Imatatarani. And I have to say, I recommend it because it is a series that, of course, in addition to all of the famous films, really shows a lot of the region quite in detail. The Calanchi were mentioned. It's the Italian word for badlands, what we would describe as badlands, eroded territory that has a very kind of an eerie beauty to it. But that in that area, in the Metapontino area, where Carlo Levi lived, is in, and where that Museum of Modern Art that was shown earlier on the screen is, it is a whole kind of different place. And so there are so many different landscapes. Also, when talking about mountains, we're very high mountains. The Pollino National Park is the largest national park in all of Italy. It straddles Basilicata and Calabria. So, everything from hiking to that lot of snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, but there are even places in other parts of Basilicata that have downhill skiing. So it's hard to imagine that you have everything from beaches to mountains, and then, of course, all of the food um, opportunities. I guess you would say every meal is another opportunity. And then, of course, there is Matera, which you've already heard so much about it, but it's the kind of place where your jaw drops when there are these outlooks from the, you say, more modern part of the city. Actually not modern, old by any American standpoint, but and you look out onto this really just incredible landscape carved into rock, and it has rightly become famous. And they've really done a wonderful job of bringing it into, I guess you would say, this century. So you can go into the old church and see the paintings on the walls, and then you go into another building and you see this modern art. So they've really brought it into the 21st century. You have to get used to saying 21st century. And so it is really a beautiful place, and really a wonderful place to visit for people who have roots, as well as of course, it's for anybody who really wants to travel and wants to have experiences. So
Thank you very much,
thank you.
Karen. That was wonderful to hear about your personal experiences in traveling through Basilicata. And we know that a lot of the members of the various associations within the Federation have roots in Basilicata, and they only know very, very little about where their ancestors came from. They may have heard it once, mispronounced it, etc. And so there's interest from those people in visiting, because these people are third, fourth generation immigrants to the US. So there's interest from these people in visiting the town where their ancestors originated from. So that would be important, but why would it be important for someone with Lucanian roots to explore Basilicata beyond their grandparents' village?
Yes, I find that because a lot of people contact me through social media pages, and also because they've read my book, and so I have a lot of I talk with a lot of people who have roots in these southern regions. And often the first thought is they go to Rome and Florence, and then they just spend the day or 2 days in their village, and that's it. And what I found is many of them don't realize how much, first of all, there is to see in the region. And I think it's as good of a job as the people from Basilicata do in getting the word out there, it's still difficult to compete with this constant the constant advertisements for Tuscany and Venice and to do the Amalfi Coast. Yeah, it's really difficult to compete with that. And so people are bombarded with all of these other places, and there's that feeling that if they haven't seen those other places, they haven't been to Italy. And so it's almost as if they have to check those off first, and then they tack on their village. But well, of course, seeing the Colosseum in Rome is, of course, it's important. It's but also seeing the temple in Metaponto, can we say equally? Okay, everyone has their, in their mind what they want to see. But the thing about exploring the whole region of Basilicata, or more than just the village, is that it gives you a context from where your people came from, what were the surroundings, and I guess you can even say what makes a person a Lucanian. What there's a region. It's been there for a long time, of course, with different names, but just that identification. Because if you just go merely to that one village, then you're really a Materano or someone from Potenza. You haven't really explored the whole region to see really what is there. And I think that people are amazed when they go. Well, they definitely are from everything that I have seen. And the really great thing about it is they have elbow room. In most places in Basilicata, you don't have the crowds. So you're not waiting online. You're just enjoying the whole time. And you're also with the local people, because you're not hearing English all the time. Not that there's anything wrong with English, but you're clearly that these people at the next tables, if they're all speaking in English, you're not really feeling what it would be like to be in a place. And that's why one of the reasons I named my book Authentic Italy, because you really get that authenticism when you're in Basilicata.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, Karen. Now I have a question for Antonio. Antonio, people that are participating in this webinar are mostly from the US and English speaking. Can you share with us the availability of English speaking guides in Basilicata? How easy is it for visitors to find guided tours that cater to an English speaking audience?
Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate Karen for the description of Basilicata. It's very corresponds to what I feel and what as I leave this place, this region. How easy is to find English-speaking guides? Well, it is now it is quite easy because the international tourism is growing. It is not like in other regions. It is true what Karen said. We are far from over tourism. In other places of Italy, there are crowds, queues, and this is definitely not happening here in Basilicata. But especially if you go to Matera, Matera is has a quite established environment of tourism entrepreneurs working with foreign travelers, and so it is quite easy. But if you are planning your trip in advance, as I guess someone coming from United States can do, you can visit our website. Let me share the screen. The website is Basilicata Turistica. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, basilicataturistica.it/en. You see it here. And in the homepage, there are many information, many topics that you browse through, and you can also find here travel incoming agencies. If you click here, there is a page with all the information, contacts of travel agencies that work with foreign tourists. So basilicaturistica.it/en.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Now I'd like to ask Karen a question. For travelers who are considering visiting Basilicata alone, how easy is it to navigate and explore the region independently? What should solo travelers keep in mind?
Well, I would say first of all, when you go anywhere in southern Italy, even Italy in general, you need to realize that everything takes more time than you think. So you might map out where you're going to go in a day, but you don't realize that no matter what Google Maps tells you, it's going to take a little bit longer. A lot of the region is very, very hilly. And so obviously, if you're going to be traveling by yourself, at a certain point, you're going to have to rent a car. It would be difficult. You can get from, and I did it. I traveled for a few weeks at one point without a car. And so you can go from the larger places, and the smaller places also have buses, but you know, if it's only a couple times a day, then you really have to be an expert planner and really be able to talk to people and figure out where that bus stop is, because if it's only coming once a day and you somehow are on the wrong street. So you need to plan, you know, also with opening hours of museums, especially if you're in a small place. If you're in Matera, you know, there'll be schedules, but in the smaller places, often you arrive and there'll just be a sign on the door that says, here's the number to call. And by that point, it might be too late because you have to move on the next day. So careful planning, and when you arrive, really talk to people and get the help of the local people, because they're the ones who are going to know about the village and wherever you're going, and they might be able to make that phone call for you in a small place. Let's say there's a small museum, perhaps in a little house, and that when you go, it seems it's not open. Well, it will be open if you just have to make the right phone call, and someone will open it for you. But as a person who's traveling by themselves, you don't realize that first, because you're used to being in a big place where someone's always just sitting there. But if they only have one visitor a week, no one will be sitting there waiting for you. So you do need to plan in advance. I guess that would be my my best advice, is to really plan in advance, and make use of the people. For example, if you stay in a bed and breakfast, read all the reviews and see if people say so and so was very helpful, and stay in that place, and they'll help you out. So
Well, thank you. That's great advice. And I have read your book, Basilicata Authentic Italy, and it's excellent.
Thank you.
How can people where can people purchase the book?
It's very easy to get. You can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, the big any of the big online websites that sell books. You can also order it from your local bookshop, and they can order it. It's of course certainly not popular enough that it's going to be on a shelf. It could be in a small Italian books shop in the United States, but you'd be better off ordering it, and it's available in paperback and also in ebooks. So often, if people, for example, in sometimes in Australia, they might have a little bit more difficult, even though it's available there, but the electronic book arrives, of course, instantaneously.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that pretty well wraps it up for today. I do want to thank you both very much for joining us today. Very insightful. I was born in a small village of Craco in Basilicata.
Oh, we didn't
And
mention Craco.
and I, like both of you, are very passionate about telling other people about the wonderful places to visit and experiences they can have in Basilicata. As you mentioned, Karen, when people think of Italy, they think of Tuscany, they think of Rome, Venice, and we're usually forgotten. And it's truly a hidden gem, and it is truly an authentic place for you to experience Italian culture. So thank you both very much. And to people that are participating in this webinar, once again, we hope this session inspires you to connect with your rich heritage and the region, and perhaps even plan a visit to experience it firsthand.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.